Okay, students, I believe that the screen is visible at the moment. Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if the screen is visible? I think Sridevi, is the screen visible and my voice is audible from your end? Can I get a confirmation, please? I am assuming it is audible. Okay. So, students, now if you observe in the previous session, we were effectively going through the company induction session of Cuppcarr. That is your role, our company profile, the current situation of our company after the owners of our companies who founded the companies resigned or they sold their stake, and then our services were there. That is our services, what we render: new car sales, used car parts and services, and finance and insurance. So these are the services that we are effectively providing to our customers. And we just went through the other aspect as well regarding the Bata Motors, the Limolux, all these brands, and our operational functions of our organizations, how they manage the people around. And the car sales are also effectively mentioned, if I'm not mistaken. How we used to sell the used car, everything has been mentioned. And the parts and other services, and also the summary we just had about our car dealership. What we do, what we are doing, everything is mentioned. So I believe that is very clear for everyone at the moment. So students, today, now the internal induction is over. That is, this is a skill that many of you all need to adapt as well, because at the end of the day, you will be working with newcomers in your organization. And if they are not properly communicated with the business and the external business, the efficiency level of your department will reduce. That is practical. So in order to prevent those things happening, we initially want to make sure we provide them a proper understanding and an explanation on what is happening around them. So students, now it's the industry induction session what we are going to do today. And this is also very critical for your understanding. Now, for instance, if you observe our case study. Now, the biggest problem with the CIMA case study is the organizing. They give a huge explanation about the industry sector, and then they give the information about the company, and then the current issues. What are practical issues that is taking place in the market? Now, if you read in that chronological order, you may find it very challenging to grasp what is there because it's a little bit confusing. So in the previous class, I completed the full analysis of Cuppcarr, okay, how the organization works. Today, since you are already familiar with the internal structure of the organization, we will go to the market conditions, and based on this, we can strike a balance on what areas we can concentrate. Are we doing well with the market? So let's start going through this area of this car dealership, which I have summarized today. So students, if I'm not mistaken, let's come into the basic idea. Okay, what is dealership or what is car dealership? So this is very, very good question, and we can do the prediction as well. Now, students, if you observe a situation, let's assume in our case study, students, if I am not mistaken, we have a company called Bato Motors. Okay, so in real life, I can effectively say this is like Toyota. Okay, I am connecting this to Toyota. The technical term we call him as OEM. That means original equipment manufacturer. Original equipment manufacturer. That is OEM. So what's going to happen? This Bata Motors, which is the original equipment manufacturer, will effectively delegate the role to the dealers. Look at the term here, students. Delegate the role to the dealers, and dealers will sell to the consumers or the market because they have prime location, if I'm not mistaken, because they have a location advantage, I can effectively say, because location advantage they have. And the second thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, these guys, or I can say this barter motors in simple language, these guys can concentrate on, if I'm not mistaken, research and development rather than marketing. So that is the reason they effectively need a dealer. Now, exam focus, just to keep your mind very much conscious in the examination. So do you think, what are the possibilities of this? Now, in my point of view, I can say there is internet now, correct? Because there was a time there were no internet. So since there is internet, can there be a situation barter motors directly selling it to the consumers? Can there be a situation barter motors, what are they doing, students? They're directly selling to the consumers. Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? Is that a possible chance? Yeah, that is the possible chance. Because as finance managers, you have to get prepared for these factors. So the worst case scenario we prepare, the most easy the examination will be. So students, if I am not mistaken, can I generally say barter motors, or I can write down manufacturers directly selling to whom, students? Manufacturers directly selling to whom, students? Consumers. Students, can that happen? Practical question I am asking. Can manufacturers directly sell to the consumers? That is the question. And I will develop you a mock paper on that. But just remember, you will get a question on this. Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students? Now, you have to read this pre-seen material the way I am analyzing. Reading is a wonderful skill for the human brain, because the more you connect what they are saying, it is easy for you to think. That is what is needed. Excellent. Thank you very much, students. Now, students, if I'm not mistaken, car dealers, if you see, as per the case study, they are effectively saying they have two options. Option one, if I'm not mistaken, sell brand new cars. Sell what, students? Brand new cars. Then, students, option two, sell what, students? Used car. And students, if I'm not mistaken, option three, either. You can sell both. You can sell both. Now, where are we? Our company is the option three. Correct, no, students? Can I write down here? Cuppcarr is in this area. Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? So one organization can sell directly only brand new cars or only used cars, but our organization is effectively selling both. So that is the pitching of our map. That is very, very clear. So students, if I'm not mistaken, the next thing for a good dealer, what are needed? In simple language, we call this as, threshold competence. Threshold competence. That means the basics that are needed to be a good dealer. One thing is you need to have showrooms. Correct, no, students? You need to have showrooms, of course, nicely embedded. And you need to have, if I'm not mistaken, students, a car lot. Students, car lots means outside the showroom. Outside the showroom, you can have that. That is generally for used cars. Used cars are generally outside the showrooms. And the other one, students, you need to have something called workshops. And according to our case study, the success for an organization is how efficient the workshop is. You have to have this. And students, if you don't mind, can I ask you a question? Does Cuppcarr have this? Of course. So can I write down here, Cuppcarr have these resources? So they are competent enough, these resources. They are competent enough to compete in the market. So this is the basic idea. I believe everyone is clear with that. Now, students, let's go on to the next aspect. The next aspect is the basics. If you are only selling new cars, what are the criteria and how that works out? And then it's going to be the used cars and likewise the other services. So I'm going to start working with y'all. The first one, new car sales. First one is what, students? New car sales. You're going to specifically sell new car to the market. So students, there are some rules. There are some what, students? Rules. Rule number 1, if I'm not mistaken, geographical location. Because you can't have two competing or the same brand within the same location. So low geographical location gap I can effectively say. And the second one, if I'm not mistaken, is internal standards, which I will come to that in detail, but you need to have something called what, students? Internal standards. So students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are basically clear with the rules? Because new cars domination is very, very high. New cars domination is very, very high. Old car or the used car easy to sell. But new cars, it is little tough. So the technical terms. So I will just write down the technical terms in purple color. MMRP. Can someone tell me what does MRRP means? That is known as manufacturer, recommended, what, students? Retail price. Now, this is very critical for a finance manager, industry-based knowledge. So manufacturer will effectively have an MRRP for each of the products. And generally for normal products, it's only 2 to 3% of the sales value is the profit. So this sector, if you observe, the margin is very, very, very low. And for luxury cars, you will get 10% profit per sales for luxury cars. And students, if I'm not mistaken, Cuppcarr, we effectively say both ranges. So luxury car we sell and also we sell the normal cars. Now, if you observe in our case study, students, Limo Lux is a luxury car, Bata Motors is a general car. So I'll just write down here, in our aspect for understanding, Limo Lux we sell. We have Limo Lux and we have Bata also. Limo Lux is also there. We have Bata Motors as well. So students, are you clear with this basic factors of Limo Lux and Bata Motors? They are not sold in the same department, but they are sold by our organization. So students, are you clear with this? This is very, very critical numbers you have to keep in mind. And then there is one more element called bonus. So can I write down here bonus on what, students? Bonus on performances. Bonus on what, students? Performances. Bonus on performances. Makes sense, no, students? If I'm not mistaken, you need to have bonuses on what, students? Performances. I believe this is very clear for you all, students, if I am not mistaken. Any questions you like to ask, you can ask me, students, but this is the basic criteria on how these things are done. And another industry data, that is 20,000 is the average selling price that you have to keep in mind. And effectively, another thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, when you sell a car, you will effectively get 2,400 as again an average profit per sales. So the industry gross profit margin, for your idea, is, if I'm not mistaken, students, I'll make it very easy. 2,400, you divide it by 20,000, multiply it by 100. So in that case, students, if I am not mistaken, it will give you somewhere around 12% only they are saying. But in this case, there is somewhat around 2 to 3% they are effectively saying. And the price ranges. So if I'm not mistaken, the price ranges are 14,000 to, if I'm not mistaken, students, $40,000. So this is the price range that is effectively taking place in the market. And in the market today, there are 5,200 franchises. Market has 5,200 franchises. And students, quickly going to our previous class. Now, currently, we do have how much? 214. So can I write down here? We only have 214. That is, market has 5,200 franchise dealership, if I'm not mistaken. And we have 214 compared with the market, right? So Cuppcarr has 214 compared with the market. So in that case, students, if I am not mistaken, I can effectively consider that we effectively have somewhere around 5%. Somewhere around 5%. That is my idea. How did I calculate 5%? Very simple. That is 214 divided by 5,200. And then students, in the market, the total number of employees working in the market is how much? 620,000 employees are working in this sector. And quickly, if you don't mind, can we go and see how many employees are effectively there in our organizations? 2 to 5,000. So if I'm not mistaken, I will just mention that also for your references. So I'll just mention 25,000 employees are effectively there. So in that case, students, once again, if we do a small data analytics, I think our number of percentage is somewhere around 4% rounded down, if I'm not mistaken. It was somewhere around 4%, if I am not mistaken. Now, students, coming to the next one. So these are the fundamental things. So we are not a big player in the market. Revenue may be high because of our prime location. Location advantage we may have, but other than the location advantage, we don't have anything which is specific. So these are the basic factors. Now, the next thing that students need to know, 30 popular brands are there in the market. Understand it very well. Market has 30 popular brands of what, students? Of car. Now, of the 30 popular brand of car, let's start analyzing the car brands one by one so that you will understand where are we in the market. So I will effectively write down here brand. What I'm going to write down here, brand. And here I'm going to mention number. So Bata Motors is very, very, very important factor, which has 370. The number Bata Motors has is how much? 370. And then the next one is Cars Auto. Cars Auto. So in that case, if I'm not mistaken, it is 410. Okay. And then we have something called Core Power. Now in that case, we have 394. And then we have something called Rod Terrace, the other one. If I'm not mistaken, it is effectively 387. And then we have something called Wind Vesha, if I'm not mistaken, or Wind Vesh, that is effectively 382. So students, if you observe this very practically and very clearly, I believe this is very much understandable for you all in the market, and there are number of dealerships. Now, the biggest question here is this car we are not trading because there are no possible guidance whether aren't we selling this brand because this brand has very much number of dealership. And if you see, we are only tied up with Bata Motors and they have not given any other data other than that. And if you observe students, just going to the case study for your idea students, now Bata Motors has the very low number of dealerships. So there is a question mark. If other parties are having more, there may be some factors to be considered. Like, why don't we go ahead with other people as well in a separate dealership? Whether people like this, they are trying to make a scarcity and sell the product. We don't know what they are effectively planning to do, but this is the application of this. So students, can I quickly get a double Y in the chat box if you are okay with this brand? Because these are very, very important and Bata Motors only. So in this case, we are effectively stuck with Bata Motors. That is one important thing. Now, students, if I'm not mistaken, I'll just come to the franchisee's requirement. So that will be also very clear because I said when you have a car dealership, the franchises, if I'm not mistaken, have standards. So if I'm not mistaken, I'll just write it down. One is suitable premises because that is very, very, very important. Suitable premises is important. And then students, if I'm not mistaken, experienced and competent staff. Experienced and competent staffs because the product knowledge is very, very critical. And then students, if I'm not mistaken, properly equipped workshops because your workshop should be properly equipped because students, main reason why people come to buy a car is they have confidence that in case our car gets accident or something wrong happens, we do have a workshop who is going to guide us. And then students, there are situations where the franchise license can be void. License can be what students? Can be void. Even that is also possible. Are you agreeing with me, students? There are chances the franchise license can be what students? Void. That means in case if you are not following the standard, if you are going against the standard, there are chances that the franchise license can be void. So students, any questions you like to ask, you can ask. But if you are fine with this, this is the basics. This is the basics for the, if I'm not mistaken, the normal process. Now, the next one is, students, it's correlated. Now, I think the first one is the used car, sorry, the new car. Now, we are going to the second main factor that a person should understand. Effectively, we call it as, students, in simple language, we call it as fleet leasing. Fleet leasing. And students, if you observe, once again, I am doing a mapping. And Cuppcarr does this. Cuppcarr, we does lease licensing. So we have this service. Cuppcarr has this service, and this service is also very popular in the market. So how does it work? That is the question we have. How does it work is very clear. The thing is, the operational lease model. That means, students, in simple language, it's like a rental model, not a sale model, rental model. That means vehicle can be returned. Vehicle can be returned after used. So in case, students, this is generally for used vehicles. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can go for a fleet leasing where you can use for some time and return it back, or for new vehicles also it is possible. And students, just going to the previous class, I believe it was very clear we have to have a minimum order quantity of 5 vehicles. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was given. Finance and lease, if I'm not mistaken, they were giving we need to have around 5 vehicles. Up to 5 vehicles, there was an issue, if I'm not mistaken. Here, 5 cars or more, and it can go until 2 years operating lease. So I'll just make sure that is also properly mentioned. 5 cars or more, that we have a standard, and for 2 years, 2 years only. So that is very, very clear. So corporate contact, all those things can be effectively there. That is the second service that is given in the market, and effectively we are also giving that in the market as well. Now let's come to the third one, students. The third one. Now, if you observe the third one, if I am not mistaken, is the used car. How the used car works. Now, students, if I am not mistaken, students, used car are purchased by the dealer. Purchased by the dealer and resold. What they do, they resell it at a good rate. They reduce the price and they sell it at a good rate, and that rate depends on the following factor. The factor one is popularity of the model. Now that is very, very important. Now students, if you observe, Bata Motors has the least number of storerooms. So my question is Bata Motors popular? That is the question here, students, because I am getting a doubt. Bata Motors least store. Least what, students? Store. Are they popular? That is a good question. Are they popular? Because if they are having a good brand, you need to have more number of stores because the demand is also there. Then the second one, just to make sure you are clear with that, the age of the vehicle. Now, students, the useful life in the market of a vehicle is 4 years. It's not like Asia. You can't use the vehicle and pass it to the next generation. We only can use it for 4 years, and then wear and tear. There can be some basic scratches, dents, all those things. And then we have something called mechanical conditions. Then we have something called, what, students? Mechanical conditions as well. And then students, if I'm not mistaken, you have something called bodywork conditions as well. That is also there, if I'm not mistaken. That is the exterior body mechanical. Now, mechanical condition here is engine conditions like that. So, engine, brake, all those are mechanical condition. Bodywork condition is exterior parts, students. Any dents, all those things are considered, if I'm not mistaken. So students, this is the factors that is considered for a used car to be purchased. So you need to remember this as a finance manager. There can be questions coming here when we are going to acquire assets, negotiation. So students, can I write down here something called exam focus? Now, if there's a question on negotiation, you just write down the textbook negotiation, you will not pass. You have to write negotiation using the business skill. Negotiation using what skill, students? Business skills. This is the business skills. Can I quickly get a Y in the chat box if you understood that point of view, students? Negotiation using business skill, because I think I already communicated this exams is very easy for working professionals. The reason is you are daily engaging with these factors. Again, that is true. You are daily engaging these factors. So it's just like a walk in the park, students. It won't be a difficult thing for you. And then students, another thing is factors or how the dealer purchases. How the dealer purchases. This is another program you have to keep in mind. The first thing is trade in new vehicles. The first thing is trade in new vehicles. That means you trade in old for new vehicle. That is one more thing. And the other one is trade in old for used vehicle. You can trade your old vehicle for a new vehicle or trade an old vehicle for a used vehicle. That is also possible. And then trade purchases. That means you directly buy the vehicles in simple language. And the other one is retail purchase. That means in case if there is a financial difficulty, the seller can sell it also. Now, I just want to come here. These factors can be digitalized. Correct, no, students? Digitalized. I think if you have gone through the Apple website, specifically in India or the US, I don't know, in India it's functioning, students. You can trade in your old Apple phone and buy a new Apple phone, and they will give you a discount or a price value. So I'll write down here, online website can be exploited. Online website can be exploited. Students, are you understanding that factor here? Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box? if you are able to understand that point of view on the online website getting exploited, because that is very, very important for the student to understand that. Excellent. Thank you very much. And that is one more thing. And another thing, students, you have to understand in this thing is 2600 or W dollar 2600 effectively is the profit. Effectively is the profit. I believe that is very clear in these vehicles. So students, we are effectively done with the other part also. Leasing service is also done, new car is also done, and effectively used car is also done. And these three services we already provide. And we have to make sure the question why only Bata Motors and Luxico, if I'm not mistaken, we are doing that, so that you will understand the application Limolux. Now, students, coming to the next one, if I'm not mistaken, the fourth one, that is part and servicing. Part and servicing, which is the fourth one. So if you do not mind, students, can I start working on this part and services? Yeah. Now, students, part and servicing means like the workshop. So I'll write down here the workshop for the after sales service, because in this business, after sales service is important. Very, 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 very important. After sales services. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the first one I'll write down here, part sales. That means spare part sales. Now, students, you can sell components. That is not an issue. Okay, components to car. That is very easy now, students. And another option that you can effectively do is, students, you can sell your products or the components to local garages. They will also buy because you are a dealer now, students. And then, students, you have other items like flow mats, basic things for the car. And then, students, you can have merchandises like hats and t-shirt, like BMW t-shirt, all those things you can have. And one challenge is the OEM, that is original equipment manufacturer, like Bata Motors, may again come into the picture and recommend their buyers or recommend customers to go to this workshop. So that is one challenge we may have, because they are giving a recommendation also. And can you remember, students, it was also mentioned generic products are used, because that is one point we have to keep in mind. Generic products are used. Generic products are used by the workshop for certain old cars, because we don't know certain old cars. So that is one important, students. And students, accident can take place. That can happen in the examination. Right? Accidents can take place. Accidents can take place due to poor servicing. Can take place due to poor servicing. Yes or no, students? Due to poor servicing, that also can happen. Makes sense, no, students? If I'm not mistaken, can I quickly get a confirmation from y'all in the chat box, students, if I'm okay with that ideology, students, because it's very practical, very relevant also. Then the next thing, students, if I'm not mistaken, is servicing. What is the next thing, students? Servicing. So servicing is, now in this case, they are mentioned every 15 kilometers, 15,000 kilometers, you need to have a service, or there is an annual service also that needs to be provided. Then the third one, students, mechanical repair. Mechanical what, students? Repair. Now, according to mechanical repair, there are two types of repair. One is known as accidents, and the other one is known as what, students? Defects. Now, accidents means, students, car has got accident, or defects means manufacturer's mistake. Sometimes manufacturer may have mistake. All those things are defects. And then, students, the next one is called bodywork repair. That is exterior. That means exterior repair. So this is also one thing to consider. So I'll just write down here. It is known as exterior repair. That is dent, all those things, scratches, everything. So one thing, students, I just want to give you a special note so that it will be very easy and very essential for you. This is the critical success factor. This is the critical success factor for any dealer, because if you are not good in your after sales service, you are a poor dealer, because after sales service is the critical factor. Students, you have to keep that in mind. Any questions you like to ask, you can ask me, students. But if you're fine with that, can I go to the next one? That is the next service that we are providing. If I'm not mistaken, students, that is the fifth one, just to make sure. Number 5, if I'm not mistaken, that we have to effectively call it as finance and insurance. Now, this is again a wonderful service because it's a purely a service what we get. So generally we have something called commission what students? Income. Commission incomes from the lenders for this. And then students, we have something called extended warranty. Now Apple sells no students extended warranty just to give some excess cash, collect some excess cash. And then we have something called the service plan. Now service plan example students, you can buy service plan for 3 years. They will give you a small discount since you are buying in a bulk purchase. So this is one thing. And one important thing students, you have to be very careful. Warranty is sometimes provided by the dealer. Provided by the dealer, not the manufacturer. Now, this is a tricky area because sometimes you have to go through a legal dispute also. Because certain dealers say, we will give you warranty. If something happen in our workshop, we will take care of all these things. Now, manufacturer is not taking anything. So are you understanding that, students? Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are getting that point of view? Because that is a challenge. That is a challenge and we are not aware of how these things work. So these things can come in your unseen examination. So this is the 5th service, if I'm not mistaken. The used car and then the parts service, and this is the 5th one. Now the last one, it's nothing related to that. This is called as employee hierarchy. It's not the employee hierarchy of our company. It's the employee hierarchy industry practice. What practice, students? Industry practice. So students, if I'm not mistaken, can we effectively start with this employee hierarchy? Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this employee hierarchy? Yeah, excellent, wonderful, wonderful. So in this case, let's effectively work on the employee hierarchy. And actually, students, there can be an issue relating to the employees also. Now, these are the terms. One is known as dealership principal. Look at the term they are using, dealership, what students? Principal. In our language, they are the general managers. They are the general managers. The main thing is finance. They manage the finance and marketing and also the operational decision, not day-to-day operation. No, I can say key decisions of the dealer. So they are like the general manager. They have more power because they are the people who is take care of all the operations that is taking place. That is one. And then students, if I'm not mistaken, you have something called sales managers and sales executives, sales managers and sales executives also. Now, these people are already mentioned. Can you remember, students, in our case study, we have a receptionist, we have sales executive. So these people are like front end. They talk directly to the customers, front end. And in simple language, students, they are the promoters, correct? No, students, promoters, and need to be aware of the product details. Needs to be aware of the product details. That is also one more factor. Very clear. And then students, we have the other one, that is the business managers. They are back end. Look at the term I am using, students. They are what end, students? Back end. In simple language, students, if I'm not mistaken, I'll write down here finance plan. They do the finance plan for lease. Because we have a lease, no, students, they negotiate that lease price. Extended warranty planning, they do that, if I'm not mistaken. They do the negotiations. In other words, parts and components, parts and components. If they are going to bring to the organization, they do the estimation. Everything is done by them. And these people are separate. They are called as the service advisors. They are workshop employees and workshop staff. Now, students, service advisors and workshop staff. If you have ever gone to a workshop, you will see there are employees plus the service advisor. So he's like the manager of workshop. Only the workshop section, the department, different one. And in this, they provide the quote. They provide the quote for the repair services, everything. So students, if you observe, this is a very different type of organization structure. But if you see this general manager, that was not mentioned in our pre-scene material for our business. So we need to be very careful how these organizational structures are there in order to delegate our activities. And students, if you see, they were effectively focusing on these executives and they never told something related to the business managers also. And the service advisors and workshop staffs also was not much given in the case study. But students, if I'm not mistaken, just to make sure your life is simple, you have to make sure that dealership principle is used in your answers at least once. And the sales managers, sales executive, business managers, and service advisors, all these things need to be used. So students, can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are able to understand these factors, which is essential for the students? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So again, students, I will quickly do a recap. Now, the industry induction session. Now, this is how in real world also will happen. First day, they will make you familiar with the internals. Second day, they will make you familiar with how the market operates. And then slowly, you will do the things by your own because you are gradually learning. So what is a car dealership? Okay. So I clearly told you we have a risk that the manufacturer directly selling to the customer possible. Dealers, you have the option to sell new cars, used cars, or buy the both. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the basics, showroom, car lots, and workshops. And then there are some new rules, geographical location, internal standards. And these are the key terms, MRRP, manufacturer's recommended price, bonus on performance, all these technical jargons, you just have to have an eye on that. And the brands, the 5 brands they have given, and we are effectively on Barto at the moment. And we have to make sure, why are we not moving on with other people? That's a question we have to ask. The reason behind that question we have to ask is we have 214 Cuppcarr dealerships. We have to make sure that is done. And the franchise license can be void. These are potentials in the examination. Fleet leasing, Cuppcarr has around 5 cars and more than 2 years. Operational lease model, rental model. Vehicle can be leased, returned after used vehicle or new vehicle, and car of used car. These are the factors that you have to keep in mind, how things are done, the workshops, and the finance and insurance, and the employee hierarchy. Now, students, whatever the questions we are going to do, you have to have an idea of this important thing, which I'm going to do now, is the business model. Now, our business model effectively focuses on economies of scale because we try to sell more numbers and try to make money. So in this case, if I'm not mistaken, the first thing that we have to keep in mind is how you have positioned your value in the mind of the market. Market is the consumers. Cuppcarr provides the retail service required by car manufacturers that have franchised its dealership. It also offers positive experience to customers who buy its new car and used car. That means they are giving good ambience. They're giving trust to the people. That is what they are saying. And so effectively, they are effectively making sure their franchisees are satisfied and also their customers are satisfied. Now they have an idea what to do. Now how they are going to bring that idea to reality? Actions. Actions is creations. Definition is your visuals, what you think. You have to create it. Cuppcarr creates ongoing relationship with customers. Its sales executives and business managers provide expert advice. Excellent after-sale service removes much stress of the car ownership. Many customers return to buy their next car or come to Cuppcarr because of the recommendation satisfied by the customers. Excellent. So relationship marketing is something that they are effectively following, because that is very clear that they are returning back based on this. Now, students, we can do digital marketing where we can collect the data of the customers, we can track the data of the customers, and we can give them recommendations such as you have to come for a service because your kilometers per hour is getting close to what is required for a service. I believe that is very clear for the students. And then delivering value. After you create it, how you reach the hands of the customers is the delivery. Cuppcarr assists customers at every stage in acquisition and ownership of their new car and used car. Customer-facing staffs are available to advise and assist them. Alternatively, customers can order new or used car or a book service or a repair through the company website. So the website is playing a critical role on making sure they are getting arranged with all the functions that they need. And also their prime location can play a critical role as well. Capturing residual value, the next one. Cuppcarr sells a wide range of new and good quality used car. Selling high volumes of new car maximizes manufacturers' sales incentives and create additional opportunities to earn commission and sell workshop services. The sale of good quality used car attracts high margin from each sales. So effectively, they are making money by giving value and they are selling high volumes effectively to get the economies of scale. Now, students, these are the factors that we have to consider. So I believe that the biggest challenge that we may face is, suppose if our manufacturers start their own retail outlet. And the second thing, if I'm not mistaken, suppose in case if we get something different from what we are thinking, like a new breach of contract, anything can happen. So students, this is the ideology of the internal and the external. Now, in our next class, we will effectively focus on the current issues, future. We know the internal, we know the external. Now, I am training you how to see the future. So now you are getting the second day of experience in our office. The next day, you are going to understand the current issues. And then slowly, students, we are effectively going up and going to finish it off. And the SWOT I will be giving to you all, don't worry about that. And we can effectively plan the SWOT by ourselves also, because now you are understanding where you are standing. And you know the key challenges we are facing, the key strength we have, and we have to diversify our models of our cars instead of being dependent only with Bartow. So there is also some factors to be considered as well. So students, if I'm not mistaken, I will go with the one-to-one discussion with all of you all. Firstly, I'll start with Douglas. Any questions for the day? You can use the chat box if there is no question by mentioning a why. If you have any questions, you can always ask in the chat box. I'll respond, or you can unmute and ask. Mr. Farhan, any questions for the day? Mr. Said, any questions for the day? Ms. Sridevi, any questions for the day? Thank you. Thank you. So students, be confident. I told you the questions which I will be taking for the mock papers. Prepare your mind, manifest yourself that you will pass this examination. You will do it very well. Discipline your mind as much as possible with positivity, and everything will happen in a positive way. And good luck to you all in preparation. I will meet you on the Saturday class. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Take care, students. Good night.